Today we're going to be installing a worn winch and a snowplow mount on a Kodiak 450, so stick around. Welcome to Rough Riders, I'm Jay Taylor. About 6 months ago, we bought my wife a 2019 Kodiak 450. It's a really nice quad. I did a short review on that. But one of the things that it was missing was a winch. Now, we don't ever anticipate ever getting into a position where we need a winch, but it's always nice to have when you need it. One of the things that we really want to be able to do with this is we get a lot of snow here in Colorado, and sometimes our street it never gets plowed by the city, so we want to put a plow on it so that way we can plow it whenever it gets really bad and too much for shovels. And so we went ahead and picked up a winch and a snowplow mount and a plow blade. So we're going to be installing those today. So I thought I'd make a video of doing an installation step by step. Before we do that, let's take a look at the tools that are going to be needed for this installation. So here's the tools I used for this install. A couple of big sort of screwdrivers and pry bar to use as levers to move the winch and stuff in small increments. Rubber mallet to knock the bumper in place. Screwdriver for various body panel components and stuff like that. The hammer and center punch to knock the plate forward while it was wedged in place. The Allen key and small screwdriver. The small screwdriver was for just various body panel components. The Allen key was for the Haas fair lead, as well as for the socket Allen key was used for. The rack on the front, 10, 12, and 13 millimeter open-end box-end wrenches, as well as corresponding sockets, an elbow, a couple of extensions, plus a 3/8" drive, and some colored electrical tape. Okay, the winch, bumper, and plow mount bracket are all installed, and that was a real chore. I'm putting this up at the beginning of the video just so that you can understand what I did, how I did it. Let me start by saying this is not necessarily the only way or maybe the easiest way to do this. If you've done this job and you know of some tips and tricks to make this job go easier, please provide those comments below because I didn't have any instructions to work from. I didn't see any videos that clearly walk through all of this and to explain how all of this goes together. So I just kind of had to figure my way out of this mess. Now, a couple of the challenges that you're going to see is the bumper flanges don't clear this plow bracket really easy. It's a really, really tight tolerance, so I had to use a dead blow hammer or a rubber mallet to smack it in place to get it to clear. Once I did that, then I was able to pull the bumper back enough to drop the winch in, sandwich the plate in, and then line up those first two holes. And then the real challenge is getting those back holes to line up. With the front holes, I was able to use a center punch and just be able to go up there and just kind of leverage everything into place and get everything to line up and tighten up. The back holes are what's the challenge because there's a little lip right here, and I'll show you pictures of all of this stuff close up. That gets in the way of being able to use something like a center punch to square those holes up. But it does work, it does fit. Now, you may be thinking that with the winch plate provided by Warren, the job might be easier because everything's custom fit. That may be true, I don't know. I don't think so because it's pretty much the same thickness, all the holes are in the same place, so it's really the same process of getting these things lined up. The only advantage I think that the Warren plate gives you is that the front comes off at an angle, so where you attach the Haas fair lead, so it gives you a little bit more clearance between the winch and the mounting bracket. I did have to modify my bracket just a little bit. I had to bend those tongues out a little bit just to give me a clearance on the backside for the bolts. Once I did that, everything was fine. So it does all work with the universal plate and everything. To install the winch, we've got to really pull a bunch of things apart to get access to where the winch is going to be located. So for example, I've got to take off the front rack, I've got to pull off the plastics, I've got to pull off this cover here, I've got to take the seat off because I'm going to install a contactor underneath the seat. I've got to get the bumper off, I've got to pull part of the skid plate off so that way I can get the bumper out where I'm going to mount the winch. And that's also where the plow mount is going to go as well, right behind the winch. So we're going to start taking everything apart. I'm going to start by taking off the rack. To get the bumper off, there's the skid plate here that's held in by a couple of 10mm bolts. Then there are 4 bolts, 2 on each side at the back. So I got to get those. Those are number 12. I think there's a couple more up here holding this plastic piece on that are attaching the bumper up. So we're going to start pulling those off right now. With the bumper off, I'm going to go ahead and start pulling off some of the plastics, get this hood piece off, and the seat and all of that so I can get to the battery and everything there as well. And so with that, I think we're ready to start installing the bracket back here for the plow blade, and then we'll install the winch plate and winch here. Okay, so there's no clear instructions on how the plow mount and the winch system all mount together. So I'm just sort of working my way through how everything lines up. And what it looks like is you have the winch plate. It's going to sit here, and this isn't specific because I'm using a universal mount. Even the Yamaha specific mount is exactly the same thing. The only difference is it comes up here and ties into this bar up here. But it looks like that goes on there. Then you've got the winch here, and then the plow mount sandwiches in between the winch plate and the plow mount. So here's how those sit. So these U-bolts here tuck behind the frame right here, and you just snug them down. Right now I've got it loose so I can line everything up, and then I'll tighten them down the rest of the way. And then here's the tongue that's going to slip in between, or sandwich between the plate and the winch, and then we'll bolt up through here into the bottom of the winch. Okay, this has been a real challenge because the fitment is really tight. The flanges on the bumper are hard to clear the mounting plate, so you kind of have to pound it up in place and get it wedged in place. And then once you do that, you still need to have the bumper off enough that you can drop the winch in from the top. Then you got to sandwich the plate in. Now this is probably where the benefit of the worn plate gives you some advantage, because it has an angle, and so the Haas fair lead will fit better. I had to make some modifications to this generic plate, but the worn plate is $85 and this one was $5. So, and they're both the same thickness metal and all that kind of stuff. And so I just bent the tongues out a little bit to give me a little more clearance, because the way the winch sit, it kicks it up at a little bit of an angle, makes it a little bit tighter between the winch and the where the nut sits for the fair lead. And then once you get the mounting plate, winch mounting plate in there, then I'm using a punch just to line up my holes so that I can get my bolts in. Now that the winch is installed and the bracket is done, I can go ahead and start installing the electrical and getting that process done. Now the Kodiak 450 has the cables run from the battery to the front of the bike for a winch install. Now The only problem, or not really a problem, is that the winch color codes everything. So the terminals on the winch are yellow and blue. The cables run from Yamaha are red and black. Not a big deal because it's all the right cables and stuff. You just have to keep track of which cables are which. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to color code them myself. So let's get started on the electrical installation of the cables and switches and all of that kind of stuff now. So here's the black cable that runs from the battery up to the winch. This would normally be the blue cable supplied by Warren, but like I said, that since it's already run, I'm going to just go and use what's there. And if you follow it along, it ties in over here, and here's the red one, and you can see they're actually tied together, taped together. So they follow along, it comes down, and then it pops out. Here's one terminal, and there's the other terminal. And so I just gotta snip the wire or the zip tie that's holding the wires in, and then feed those down up to the winch, and then I'm gonna color code them. The red one, the red pops up right here, so I just gotta undo this zip tie and bring it up to the battery. So I pulled my cables through, and then I installed the little boots that come with the kit. And then I marked them with my electrical tape just so I know which one's which. And now we're going to install them. So my white is going to go to my yellow here, and blue is going to go to the blue back here. So here's the other end of the wires that are connected to the winch. As you can see, I've got them color coded so I know which one's which. I need to install these onto the contactor, which is basically a big relay. I'm going to install the contactor, I think, right back here. But I've got a problem here where my blue cable is just a little short. So I've got to figure out how to either stretch that, pull that through and give myself some more room. I need another 6-8 inches, or I need to find a way to extend this cable across. So the pre-installed cable was not long enough. So I just used a little nut and bolt, a 1/4 inch, and tied the two terminals together, and then coiled up the remaining of the blue cable and tied it up. And then what I'll do is I'll just finish wrapping this in electrical tape as well, just to kind of keep it sealed away from water and stuff. And that's how I'll extend the blue cable over. And then the red ones are already long enough, so I don't have to worry about that. Then all I have to do is connect up the contactor or the relay to the battery terminal as well as the switch, and I should be good to go. So I have my contactor installed there. I've already prepped all my cables. I put all the boots on the terminal ends and coiled them up. So I ran the switch. I'll mount it to the bar right here. And then I ran it down and zip tied it to the handlebar, leaving myself enough slack to be able to turn the quad either direction, full movement of the bars. And then I ran it down. Here it comes down right here, down into here, and then it comes through up underneath here, and I zip tied it so that it doesn't interfere with the gear shifter. And then just zip tied it along the way, all the way down, and then comes out the other side of the fender over here. So this is the bundling of the excess. So it comes in here. I just zip tied all this together for the excess and tied it off here so it's not dangling and won't hang up on anything. It comes up right here and then goes into the selector. And if you see, green goes on the left, black goes on the right, then you've got a jumper that goes up to the terminal. I've got all my wires in here. I ran the red and the blue on this side using the strap to hold them in place since they're excess. And then for the black, I did the same thing, ran it on the other side using the tool kit strap to hold that in place. And so now all I need to do is hook them up to the battery, and then this part is done, and I gotta just wire up the switch. Okay, so the last thing we need to do before we can put all this back together is hook up the rocker switch, the handlebar switch. One of the leads coming off that, so two of the leads go back to the contactor or the relay. The other one is this red wire here, and we need to hook that up to power. That's what activates the relay or the contactor when you hit the rocker switch. Now, we want to hook this up to a power line that is behind the key so that it's only on when you turn the key on. Fortunately, on the Kodiak, Yamaha gives you a really nice location because there's an accessory port here on the hood or the cover right here. So that's sort of a 12-volt line, and it has the switch. This is what you unhooked earlier when you start taking this all apart. That connects to this one, and so that is your keyed source, and it's right there, easily accessible. So we need to hook into that. Now, you have a couple options here. One is you can splice this in to the line itself. If you want to do that, you just got to be really careful not to cut too deep into the cabling or anything like that. You can pick up, Yamaha has a little pigtail harness that adds two accessory lines to power lines that you can connect into, and then it has these connectors on it, so you can plug right in. So you basically plug it in the middle of that, and then it's got two lines already spliced in, and so you just tie into one of those. That is about, at the time of this recording anyway, it's about $20 plus tax and shipping. I think comes out to about $26, $27 at least for me when I looked everything up. Or you can do what I did and just make your own. So I found the connectors here on eBay for $8, free shipping. So I had them. So I ordered a set, and I had some wire laying around and some heat shrink tubing laying around. So I just made my own little pigtail here, and just like the Yamaha one, I put two leads on it. I'll use one for the rocker switch, and then I will use the other at some other date if I want to hook up a light bar, for example, or a heated grips or something like that. I'll have another one available to me. I just capped it off here so that it's waterproof, and so I'm just going to install this right now. Okay, so that's it. That's the installation process. At least that's what I went through. Again, this may not be the only way or the right way. There may be easier ways to do that. Like I said earlier, if you know of any easy ways to do this, please comment and provide those tips for others. That would be greatly appreciated. Thank you for taking time to watch the video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing. Your interaction with the videos really does help out creators like myself. And so I truly appreciate everybody taking time to watch this video and share their thoughts. If you have any questions or comments, post those below. I'll get to those as quickly as I can. And we'll see you next time here on Rough Riders. Thanks for watching.